Welcome to Jefferson County Post Sports. I'm David Swann with Angie Stanley. Angie, have you had a nice holiday so far?
So far, so good. How about yourself?
Wonderful. It's always nice to spend time with family and our Jefferson County Post Sports family, of course, as well. Our high school action is brought to you by Angie Cox State Farm, 1129 North Highway 92, Jefferson City, Tennessee, and we thank Angie Cox so much for her sponsorship. Tell us about the Patriots' performance so far on the basketball court.
So far, it's been average. No real standout yet, but the season hasn't even gotten into full swing yet.
Just kind of getting started.
It's just now starting to really get rolling. They're in the middle. The boys are in the middle of the Greenville Classic right now, and the ladies are in the middle of the Powell Christmas Tournament. So, as of right now, they're still playing out their tournaments, out of conference play, just trying to get in the swing of things, get their groove on.
Do you think they've hit a rhythm yet?
The last couple games that I've personally seen, they still hadn't hit a rhythm. They start out so strong, both the boys and the girls start out so strong and play hard, and then they just kind of fizzle out. It's like a marathon, though. We need to keep the momentum going. Not just bust out the gate as soon as the game gets started, get it blow up by a bunch of points and then fall back behind, but keep that steadiness to it.
That's gotta be a real benefit for a coach, and also very frustrating for a coach, because I would imagine that the coaches are probably thinking, we love the energy, we love the effort, but where's the focus to finish?
Exactly, because it's not only about starting strong, it's about finishing strong. When you're playing basketball, you're playing 4 periods of, high school, 4 periods of full-on, full-court pressing. You got to get your guards to where they need to be, and they need to get the hustle that they have to keep that momentum.
What are the strengths that you've seen of the team so far this year, though?
The strengths so far, definitely scoring. When they get in the groove, they'll go on 10, 15, 20-point rallies.
Wow.
Yeah, and against the boys, especially against when they played South Doyle, they had an 18-0 streak, but then they fizzled out.
Again, back to focus, right?
Back to focusing, but especially with the boys with Noah Carter, I think they've got a good steady player with him, and then also with the girls, they've got several good, steady, stand-up players if they can just keep their focus. And like I said earlier, it's about getting that momentum started for the season.
Absolutely.
Regular season play starts next week.
Well, and that kind of brings me to my next question. It's the new year, it's upon us. What do we see schedule-wise coming up for the Patriots?
Schedule-wise, they have a very tough schedule, and they have several series against certain teams. The next team coming up is Seymour. Seymour has shown to be, I was actually at the Sevier County Jamboree when their season started, and Seymour is actually looking very strong this season. They have several seniors that have really built up their game during the off season. With that being said, I really think, especially with the girls, the young team, they have the energy that the seniors in Seymour don't. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a great head-on-head, good basketball game to go to.
Yeah. Sticking with that idea of upcoming and what's with the new year, let's do a New Year's resolution. If you could make a resolution for the Patriots about how their season could be better coming up, what would you say? Is it guard play? Is it focus? What is your resolution for the team?
Definitely guard play and working on your rebounds and listening to your coach. That would be my resolution. Is the coaches have been on staff for long enough now, especially Coach Centered with the girls. He's been there ever since I went to Jefferson County. He knows what he's doing. Your coaches know what they're doing. Listen to them. You're not the coach, they are. And I think if there is better communication between the coaches and the players, they'd be unstoppable.
Excellent. It's a wonderful resolution for the new year. Our high school action, of course, is brought to us by Angie Cox State Farm. 1129 North Highway 92, Jefferson City, Tennessee. We thank Angie Cox so much for her support of our high school community. Now it's time for Big Orange Breakdown, brought to you by Volunteer Spirits, 921 Highway 92, Jefferson City, Tennessee. Reminding you, if you drink, please drink responsibly. Angie, we have so much Big Orange action going on these days. This is the time of year where we have both basketball teams in full swing, and we've got football bowl season coming up. Let's start with the men on the basketball court here, and it's kind of, I don't know, to me it almost feels like they're at a tipping point. They could really go either way with the season. They're playing pretty well overall, but you just never know. They're not in any game and they're not out of any game. It just feels like at any moment they could take off or they could falter.
Exactly. Like, there were several players hitting very big milestones, just like Kevin Punter. He's averaging 21 points a game.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's been crazy. You have several standouts. Amari Moore, he's hit the milestone for his Tennessee career, making 100 rebounds, or 100 shot blocks, 100 shot blocks, which is a big deal. That hasn't been done since Wayne Chisholm.
And in fact, in the Tennessee State game recently, you saw both of those issues come into play. Kevin Punter went on a streak where he had, I think, 3 3-pointers in the span of maybe a couple of minutes, just boom, boom, boom. And Amari Moore just kind of took over that game, particularly with his shot blocking.
Exactly. And, the thing is he's such a versatile player. He actually, even on the other end, on the offensive end of the court, he had 16 points.
Absolutely.
So that's a pretty big deal, especially when your best blocker can also make shots. You've got some talent.
The problem is they're playing Tennessee State, ETSU, and it's down to the wire. It's really down to the wire against teams that you really wouldn't expect that to happen.
Exactly. Regular season SEC conference play actually starts at the beginning of the month, starting off with the men in Auburn. They're playing at Auburn. That's going to be a very, very tough matchup.
And an emotional matchup.
Exactly.
With Bruce Pearl coaching at Auburn, that's an emotional matchup for
Exactly.
Tennessee fans at least. Now, the Vols, really, the test is going to be conference play, isn't it?
Yeah, that's going to be the true test this season. It's going to be in conference play. The SEC conference is actually building a stronger following with basketball, whereas usually it's ACC play.
Yeah.
That usually gets the basketball following. SEC is finally starting to make a name for themselves.
Absolutely. So, we can kind of hope the Vols will pick it up here. One thing that I can say for certain is that I never think they're out of a game. They play hard and they continue to struggle. Perhaps they can match the kind of play that's expected in the conference.
Exactly. And also, this is still coach's first season.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still working out the kinks, getting used to a certain coaching style. Mm-hmm. It's going to be...
And I don't know about you, but I really like Coach Barnes.
I do too. I like his style of coaching. I like what he expects out of his men. Mm-hmm. I think that potentially Tennessee basketball can be brought back. Texas made a big mistake with Coach Barnes, and their loss is our game.
I think a perfect example of that is Kyle Alexander has been getting some really good minutes in the low post. He's a freshman, one of the few big men that we have on the Vols roster. Been playing very, very well against Tennessee State. He played 4 minutes, and Coach Barnes' response was that was 2 minutes too long.
Yes.
And that's kind of shows the expectation that he has of his players. If you don't perform, I don't care whether you've been performing. If you don't perform on this day, you don't play.
And exactly. And I think a lot of coaches in the area can really take a page out of his book. If everybody has their on days. Everybody has their off days. There's days that you can go up, hit every layup that you could ever imagine, even if it looks impossible. And there's other days that you're missing easy shots. And it's up to the coaches to decide who's having that on day and who's having that off day.
Absolutely, and control the controllables. I think that's
Yes.
the message Coach Barnes has to his team is you can control your effort, you can control your defense, you make sure you're in control of that. If you can handle those things, you can play. I'll tolerate a missed shot or two, but I'm not going to tolerate you being out of position on defense. I'm not going to tolerate you being lazy going up for a rebound. Those are things that are in your control.
Exactly. And the thing is at least with the men's basketball team, most of them are healthy.
Yeah, and they're trying to control what they can.
And they're trying to control what they can. And I really honestly believe within the next season or two, even this season, I think we're going to see some very good things out of Tennessee men's basketball.
I agree. And in fact, that's a perfect transition to the Lady Vols, controlling what you can control. They haven't always been doing that this season. They're extremely talented. And we saw that against Oregon State.
Exactly. I mean, you lose to number 15, and then you turn around and you beat the number 17. Because I've read several reports and with several interviews with Coach Holly, the word uninspired has been thrown around. You have all this talent, but they're not inspired to perform. And when they're not inspired, when their head is not in the game, there's certain things that you can't do.
And that's interesting because depending on your perspective, that can be frustrating from multiple levels. I know from a fan perspective, they often look at the coach and say, well, it's your job to inspire. And from a coach's perspective, they always look at the players and say, it's your job to be determined. It's your job to be to have a proper attitude when you go onto the court. So I think everybody gets frustrated with this, don't they?
Everybody is very frustrated. I've actually seen a few message boards, not many, because the thing is Coach Holly is still building the team, and me personally, I think it's too soon to start calling for her head. But of course, you know how the Tennessee fan base is.
It's the good and the bad about it, isn't it?
It's the good and the bad. There's several message boards already starting to call for Coach Holly's head. And I think that would be a major, major mistake on the part of the University of Tennessee. I think she's doing a great job at rebuilding. She's just got to find some way to inspire her players and get their head in the game.
And I would say they have to find some way to inspire themselves as well.
Exactly. You need your leaders to step up. And the thing is really honestly, you don't have the depth right now with the injuries and everything. But with this break and with the road trips and several different variables, they should be on the mend.
And the good news is maybe that Oregon State game is the new Lady Vol team. Maybe that's what they've decided they want to be.
That's what the fan base is hoping for. That's what I'm personally hoping for. And also, as we start entering into SEC conference play, their first SEC game is actually going to be against Mizzou at Mizzou, and they're a tough team. But as they enter into SEC conference play, that inspiration should come in. That inspiration to perform, because they are not only an NCAA powerhouse, but especially an SEC powerhouse. And
pride of play.
Yeah, they need to have some pride.
Some pride of play. And Polly has been around for so many amazing Tennessee teams. I'm sure she's trying to reiterate that to them. Have pride in that uniform, have pride in your university, have pride in the traditions that have come before you, and live up to that.
And it all goes back to having such a young team. When you've got a bunch of freshmen who are fresh out of high school, I don't think that they understand the scope of what is the legacy of Tennessee women's basketball. The whole reason why the Ladies Basketball Hall of Fame is in Knoxville. I don't think they understand the legacy just yet. I don't think they understand what it means to be a Tennessee Lady Volunteer.
Well, and the good news is there's been some signs that Holly's starting to get that through to them, and we wish her the best in that in the new year. Let's turn our attention toward the football field.
Oh.
I know.
Oh.
Big game coming up. Big game coming up. And I know we've kind of talked about this a little bit in the past. You think this is a pretty decent Northwestern team, don't you?
I really think that this is going to be a tough Northwestern team to face. I really honestly think their defense is still looking very strong, and all of their players are healthy. And so I really honestly, it's going to be a tough game, a tough matchup. But I don't know if they have the capability. Cam Sutton is on fire.
Yeah, he's starting to really pick his play up. I think he started the season a little bit slow for his standards, not for the standards of a normal defensive back.
Exactly.
But he's really starting to pick that up a bit. I still think the team speed is just going to be overwhelmingly different, and the athletic ability is going to be overwhelmingly different. I don't think that they're going to be quite ready for what they experience on the field. Northwestern is going to be quite ready for what they experience on the field. I think they're a very good defense. They remind me a little bit of Vanderbilt or Missouri's defense, which is a tremendous compliment. I don't know that Northwestern fans would realize how much of a compliment that is. Those are two very good defenses, but they aren't Florida's defense.
Exactly.
Yeah. So a little bit later, we'll have some predictions on the upcoming bowl. So we look forward to that. This has been the Big Orange Breakdown, brought to you by Volunteer Spirits, 921 Highway 92, Jefferson City, Tennessee. Reminding you, if you drink, please drink responsibly. Now it's time for our fifth quarter, brought to you by Dandridge General Store, located in historic downtown Dandridge. Angie, we're talking a little bit here about our bowl game coming up with the Vols, and we're going to make a few predictions here, but just in general, what do you see for this game? What are the keys for this game, in your opinion?
I think Coach Jones' team needs to get their mojo. They need to show up, and they need to play all 4 quarters. If they do that, they're going to blow this out of the water.
Yeah.
But if they don't show up.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Bowl games are often like that. You know, you often get one team that just stays in the hotel or stays at home, and you know their mind just isn't in the game.
Exactly.
If both teams come prepared to play, and both teams really give everything they've got, I think the edge, of course, is going to go to Tennessee. But that's not a given. They have to show up and do it, don't they?
Exactly. Which I personally think that they will. Tennessee has something to prove. Coach Jones has something to prove. They need to set the tone for the next season.
Yeah.
Much like they did last season with Iowa.
That's one of the things that I think is working in Tennessee's favor is they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder right now. They aren't quite respected yet, and they know it, but they know they're close.
They're very close, and I really honestly think that Tennessee football is back.
Yeah.
Especially the second half of the season, and especially against devastating losses against Oklahoma and Florida, especially.
Absolutely.
I mean, the fact that they gave Alabama a run for the money, moral victory or not, it was still a loss.
Yeah.
But the thing is I really think that they are going to get the respect that they're due after this bowl game. They have something to prove. They have momentum finally, and I really think that they're going to do good.
And turnovers are also usually a key in a football game, although both of these teams do a pretty good job of protecting the ball. Northwestern does a great job of protecting the ball. Tennessee, we've seen overall, does a really good job of protecting the ball. And when Tennessee does protect the ball, very difficult to beat.
Exactly, and especially with Dobbs getting his mojo back finally. It took him a while to get his momentum back from going forward and holding on to the ball, but he's finally working on his running game and passing game. The last couple games of the season, he actually held on to the ball, which we didn't see so much of during the season. And he's got the speed, and he looks like he's finally getting the confidence.
I think he's healthy. I think, I don't know that Coach Jones really wanted to advertise it, but I think he might have had a banged up foot or leg there for a couple of games there at the end of the season. That kind of slowed his running down a little bit, but I'm sure having several weeks off, he's good and healthy and ready to run the ball. And when he runs the football, Tennessee's a difficult offense to stop.
Exactly, because his O-line does a great job at protecting him anyway, and especially when he takes off running. And against the last game against Vandy, I was actually going through my pictures the other day against Vandy, and he just had such good form. I mean, it was just beautiful. And I really think that with him being healthy again, we're going to see a lot more yardage from Dobbs himself.
And it's interesting you just said that the offensive line does such a good job of protecting him. It's been a while since we've been able to say that at the end of the season.
I know, it's really nice to have some positive input about the offensive line.
Yeah.
Because really, honestly, our strong suit has always been our defense. And that's, luckily Coach Jones is still keeping that legacy. But keep it on the offensive side of the ball, because you're only as good as your O-line.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And on defense, stopping the run.
Exactly.
I mean, that's where it comes. And I kind of think that Tennessee's front seven is going to be way more athletic than Northwestern is used to. And I think when they get put in long third down situations, that pass rush is going to be more than what Northwestern is used to seeing as well.
I think Northwestern is going to be hearing third down for a lot.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the moment.
Exactly.
The score. What do you see for this game?
I really honestly think that with the tough Northwestern defense, it's going to be low, but I don't think Northwestern is going to be able to penetrate our defense very much. I'm going 24-10 Tennessee.
Excellent prediction. I think there's going to be a little bit more scoring on the Vol side. I think this is one of those games where I could be completely wrong, but I think once the ball gets rolling in Tennessee's direction, I think Northwestern is not necessarily used to what they're going to see, and by later in the game, that could wear on them a little bit, mentally wear on them a little bit. I'm going to go with 38-13. 38-13, and that is not a reflection on what I think of this Northwestern team. I think they're a very good football team. I just think that they're going to see something that they're not used to seeing, and by the time they adjust to it, I think mentally they may be feeling a little defeated.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, I firmly believe that, and I hope your prediction comes true.
Absolutely. This has been the fifth quarter, brought to you by Danner's General Store, located in historic downtown Danner's.